a show about chaos behind the scenes. But what if the real lives of the cast were even more unpredictable? Behind the fast jokes, the awkward silences, and the endless absurdity of late-night television, there were real stories unfolding. Stories no script could fully capture. From Emmy-winning success to quiet struggles hidden behind the spotlight. From moments of brilliance to controversies that followed them for years. Some became icons of comedy. Some fought battles no audience ever saw. And some changed in ways fans never expected. 30 Rock wasn't just a comedy. It was a mirror of Hollywood itself. Messy, brilliant, relentless, and sometimes deeply human. Before we dive in, think back for a moment. Which 30 Rock character stayed with you the most? Was it Liz Lemon with her chaotic ambition? Jack Donaghy with his unstoppable confidence? Or Tracy Jordan, unpredictable, hilarious, and somehow unforgettable? Stay with me until the end, because one of these stories might completely change the way you remember this show. 30 Rock first aired in 2006 and quickly became something different. It wasn't just another sitcom. It was fast, sharp, and unapologetically smart. Created by Tina Fey at a time when television was beginning to evolve. Set behind the scenes of a fictional sketch show, it pulled back the curtain on the madness of live TV. The pressure, the egos, the constant race to stay relevant. But what made it special wasn't just the writing. It was the people behind it. A cast that felt chaotic, yet perfectly in sync. And while we laughed at their on-screen disasters, off-screen, many of them were navigating their own journeys, chasing success, facing setbacks, reinventing themselves. And in some cases, simply trying to survive Hollywood. Scott Adsit was never the loudest voice in 30 Rock, but that was exactly what made Pete Hornberger feel so real. While chaos exploded around him, Pete was the grounded one, tired, overwhelmed, and quietly holding everything together. Off-screen, Adsit followed a similar path. No scandals, no dramatic headlines, just steady work and quiet dedication to his craft. After 30 Rock, he found a new generation of fans through voice acting, most notably as Baymax in Big Hero 6, a role that brought warmth and emotional depth in a completely different way. While others chased the spotlight, Adsit stayed consistent, choosing stability over fame. In a world obsessed with drama, his story stands out for its simplicity. Judah Friedlander was instantly recognizable as Frank, with his trucker hats, deadpan delivery, and offbeat humor. But unlike many comedic actors, his real-life journey never spiraled into controversy. Instead, he doubled down on what he loved most: stand-up comedy. Touring internationally and building a loyal fan base, Friedlander crafted a persona that blurred the line between absurd confidence and satire. His comedy specials showcased a sharp, intelligent mind beneath the silliness. While Hollywood often rewards chaos, Friedlander quietly built a career on consistency and authenticity. No scandals, no breakdowns, just a comedian who knew exactly who he was. Jane Krakowski brought Jenna Maroney to life with unapologetic narcissism and over-the-top ambition. On screen, she was chaos wrapped in glamour. Off-screen, her journey was far more controlled. A Broadway-trained performer long before 30 Rock, Krakowski balanced television fame with stage success, earning critical acclaim across both worlds. Yet fame came in waves. After the show ended, she navigated an industry that constantly reinvents itself, landing roles, stepping back, then returning again. Through it all, she managed to keep her personal life largely private, avoiding the scandals that often follow celebrity. In a business built on exposure, Krakowski mastered the art of staying just out of reach. Jack McBrayer's Kenneth Parcell felt almost unreal. Endlessly cheerful, innocent, and impossibly kind. But what surprised many fans was how close that energy was to who he actually is. Known in Hollywood as one of the nicest people in the industry, McBrayer built a career on warmth and likability. Yet that same charm came with a challenge. After 30 Rock, he faced typecasting. Repeatedly offered roles that mirrored Kenneth's naive optimism. Instead of breaking away dramatically, he embraced it, finding steady work in voice acting and family-friendly projects. His career didn't explode, but it endured. In an industry that often burns people out, McBrayer quietly kept going. And then there's Alec Baldwin, the powerhouse behind Jack Donaghy. Charismatic, commanding, and razor-sharp, Baldwin was already a Hollywood giant before 30 Rock. But the show redefined him for a new generation. It earned him awards, critical acclaim, and renewed relevance. But off-screen, his story became far more complicated. Over the years, Baldwin found himself at the center of multiple controversies, from public outbursts to legal issues that dominated headlines. His temper, often discussed in the media, contrasted sharply with his polished on-screen persona. And more recently, serious legal scrutiny brought intense public attention back onto his life. Yet despite it all, Baldwin remains a figure impossible to ignore. A career filled with brilliance, shadowed by moments that continue to spark debate. So far, which story caught you off guard the most? Was it the quiet consistency behind the scenes, or the contrast between on-screen comedy and real life? And here's something to think about. If 30 Rock premiered today, in a completely different era of television, do you think it would still feel the same? Or would it be seen in a totally different light? Tell me what you think in the comments. I'm really curious to hear your take. Tracy Morgan was never just playing Tracy Jordan. In many ways, he was Tracy Jordan. Wild, unpredictable, larger than life, the kind of presence you couldn't ignore. But behind that energy was a life that had already seen struggle long before 30 Rock. Growing up in Brooklyn, facing hardship, loss, and instability, comedy became his escape, and eventually, his survival. By the time he joined 30 Rock, Morgan had already built a name for himself on Saturday Night Live. But this show gave him something different, a role that blurred the line between character and reality. It felt raw, unfiltered, and completely real. And then, everything changed. In 2014, a devastating car accident nearly took his life. A crash so violent it left him in a coma with severe injuries that required months, even years, of recovery. The headlines were everywhere. For a moment, it felt like the story might end there. But it didn't. What followed was something few people ever manage, a comeback not just physical, but emotional. Morgan had to relearn how to walk, how to speak clearly, how to live again. And when he finally returned to the spotlight, it wasn't just as a comedian, it was as a survivor. There was something different in him after that. Still funny, still unpredictable, but deeper, more aware, more human. And maybe that's what makes his story so powerful. Because behind all the laughter was someone who faced the edge and came back. Tina Fey, on the other hand, was the architect of it all. The mind behind the chaos, the voice that shaped 30 Rock into something sharp, intelligent, and unforgettable. As Liz Lemon, she gave us a character who felt real, flawed, overworked, ambitious, and constantly trying to balance it all. But off-screen, that balance was just as difficult. Faye had already broken barriers as the first female head writer of Saturday Night Live. By the time 30 Rock began, she wasn't just an actress. She was a creator, a producer, a leader in an industry that rarely made space for women at the top. With success came pressure. Expectations grew. Every season had to be sharper, funnier, better. And at the same time, she was navigating her own personal life, marriage, motherhood, and the quiet weight of responsibility that doesn't make headlines. Unlike many in Hollywood, Faye avoided scandal. No dramatic breakdowns, no public controversies dominating the news. But that doesn't mean her journey was easy. Because sometimes, the hardest struggles are the ones no one sees. The pressure to succeed, the fear of losing relevance, the constant demand to prove yourself again and again. And yet, she did it. Not just surviving the system, but reshaping it, creating space for new voices, changing what comedy could look like. If Tracy Morgan's story is about survival, then Tina Fey's is about endurance. But in the end, no story in 30 Rock carries more weight, more emotion than Tracy Morgan's. Because his journey didn't just challenge his career, it challenged his life itself. That accident wasn't just a moment, it was a turning point, a line between who he was and who he would become. The recovery was long, painful, uncertain. There were moments when even speaking felt like a victory, moments when the future was unclear. And yet, step by step, he came back. When he returned to television, it wasn't just a comeback story. It was something deeper. Every joke carried history. Every smile carried survival. You could feel it. The laughter meant more, because it had almost been lost. And maybe that's why his story stays with people. Because it reminds us that behind the brightest personalities, behind the wildest characters, there are real lives. Fragile, unpredictable, and sometimes incredibly strong. Years have passed since 30 Rock first aired, but somehow, it never really feels like it's gone. The jokes still land, the chaos still feels familiar, and the characters, they stay with us in a way few shows ever manage. Because beneath the fast dialogue and absurd humor, there was something real. Behind every punchline, there were people navigating an industry that never slows down. People chasing success, holding on to relevance, trying to stay grounded in a world built on constant pressure. Some of them thrived, rising to even greater heights after the show ended. Some faced challenges quietly, stepping away from the spotlight, choosing a different kind of life. And some went through moments that changed them completely, moments that no script could ever prepare them for. What makes 30 Rock different isn't just how funny it was, it's how honest it feels looking back. Because in many ways, it wasn't exaggerating Hollywood, it was revealing it. The exhaustion, the ambition, the egos, the insecurity behind confidence. And maybe that's why it still resonates today. Because even years later, we don't just remember the characters, we remember how they made us feel. The comfort of laughter after a long day, the familiarity of flawed people trying their best, the reminder that chaos can still create something meaningful. Time has changed the cast, it's changed the industry, and it's changed us too. But the story of 30 Rock remains the same. A story about people trying to survive the madness, on screen and off. And maybe that's why, we keep coming back to it. If this brought back memories, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. And tell me, which 30 Rock story surprised you the most?